news and current events. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry. Because the Utah Department of Health is only announcing its COVID numbers on working days, the Tuesday report from the Utah Department of Health included caseloads from July 2nd, July 3rd, July 4th, and the 5th, with an average of 287 cases a day since the end of last week. Over that same period, 7 more coronavirus deaths were reported statewide. That means there have been 2,385 deaths since the start of the pandemic. Today's update indicates there have been 417,259 positive coronavirus cases during the 16 months of the pandemic. The Bear River Health District reported 45 new cases since July 2nd. And now there have been 22,435 in northern Utah, with 22,095 of that total classified as recovered. To date, 969 have been hospitalized in the district during the pandemic, and there have been 112 coronavirus deaths in northern Utah. Nearly 9,500 Utahns were tested for the virus since Friday, July 2nd, while 14,683 total tests were conducted during the same period. Since the pandemic started, more than 2.8 million Utahns have been tested, and over 5.1 million total tests have been administered. Today's report from Bear River Health indicates 53% of all the district's residents are fully vaccinated. KVNU News Time is 5:07. KVNU weather tonight, mostly clear skies, overnight low in the upper 50s, and then sunny, hot, around 100 degrees tomorrow, sunny and upper 90s on Thursday. It's been to 95. It's 93 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Northern Steel Building. Steel is stronger, more flexible, and more dependable than wood, masonry, and concrete, plus steel is often less expensive. See their work online at northernsteelbuilding.com.
Oh, we live in a great area. Are you just back from a camping trip? Don't take your sleeping bags to the dry cleaner. Come to Mount Logan Laundry. For just a few quarters, our 55 or 80-pound washers and 80-pound dryers will have those bags clean for your next trip. Mount Logan Laundry has free Wi-Fi and drop-off service, plus they're open until midnight. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town. Find them at 5th East and 9th North in Logan, or in Brigham City on the corner of 1st East and 7th South. Mount Logan Laundry.
KVNU News Time is 5:08. A 38-year-old Nibley man was arrested Monday after allegedly breaking into a family member's home, assaulting a man, and then threatening suicide by cop, resulting in a SWAT standoff. Brett D. Smith was booked into the Cache County Jail, where he's temporarily being held without bail. According to an arrest report, Logan City police officers were called to a Logan home Sunday night. The complainant reported Smith unlawfully entered the residence from the back door and assaulted her father, Smith's reported father-in-law. The alleged victim told police he was sitting in a recliner when Smith grabbed him by the neck and pulled him out of the chair. The suspect was yelling, hitting, and strangling the elderly man. Officers report the alleged victim had bruises on his arms. He was treated by paramedics and later transported to Logan Regional Hospital, where it was later determined that he sustained 2 broken ribs. According to the report, officers later went to Smith's Nibley home. A family member claimed the suspect was not there, but provided text messages where Smith had threatened to hurt the alleged victim unless a car was returned. Later that night, police were advised Smith had returned home and was threatening death by cop. He was seen inside the house but would not cooperate with law enforcement's commands to surrender. Cache County SWAT teams were called to the home. A warrant was obtained to arrest Smith. Police state as SWAT teams entered the home, Smith punched and kicked a canine. He continued to fight law enforcement until being tased and treated by paramedics. KVNU News Time is 5:09. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
pristine wilderness can still be found in the West, where creeks run freely and historic apple trees still bear fruit. Maple Creek Ranch features breathtaking canyon views and opportunities for real estate development. 2.5-acre lots are now available with adjacent wilderness areas that provide endless riding and recreational possibilities. So find your piece of paradise just 35 minutes from Logan at Maple Creek Ranch. Schedule your appointment online at maplecreekranch.net.
Attention homeowners! You may have noticed the ground shift after your foundation has been poured, causing your house to sink or settle. Protect your investment from issues before they happen. Polylift Concrete Raising and Piering will stabilize, lift, and eliminate further settling by using Magnum Piering products to save you big money down the road. Polylift Concrete Raising and Piering are the foundation lifting experts. Visit poly-lift.com to schedule your free assessment or call or text 435-999-9309. Polylift is locally owned and operated.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Wednesday on This Morning, America's First News. The two big current stories from Florida, the search for victims at the site of a condo collapse in Surfside, and tracking Elsa as she considers the west coast of Florida. Also, why throwing additional dollars at the U.S. highway system may not achieve what President Biden wants. And for potential buyers, the hidden costs of purchasing your dream home. Wednesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. I'm Jason Williams. Here on the show over the last several years, actually, we've talked a lot about housing and the projections of population growth here in Cache Valley over the next 40 years. Expected the population will double, and that's not just in Cache Valley. That's throughout the state. Some areas more so than others. Of course, it's not going to be a doubling of population in every single square inch of the state, but some areas are going to see a bit more than double. Some areas are going to see a bit less than double, and overall, it's best for planning purposes especially to just assume a doubling of population statewide. So that's led to a lot of the things you've heard us talk to various guests about. The legislative session, a lot of time was spent on this as well. Some bills hoping to add some flexibility for cities and counties in their planning for coming up with some sort of 5 to 10 year goal on all of this. And many cities here in the Valley have already taken this on. Some have actually achieved some significant changes that allow for different densities of housing, various changes to city ordinances that allow housing to go in a spot where maybe it was reserved for industrial before and vice versa. Some areas that were purely residential are going to become industrial areas or commercial districts. So a lot of changes are going to happen over the next, 20 years here in Cache Valley. Outside of all of this, of course, is the fact that we still are largely, compared to other areas of the state, especially the Wasatch Front, very agriculture-oriented here in Cache Valley. Those open spaces are important to us for recreation and also just keeping the character of the valley alive. We also have sort of a demand, a counter-demand on space for people to live. So the state several years ago said to cities, you need to get on this. Start coming up with a plan, come up with some sort of an idea of where you're headed, a direction. And, of course, here in Cache Valley, every city doing their own thing wouldn't work. So that meant that the county needs to be involved. It's not just in Cache Valley, but all across the state. This is best practice so that the planning is consistent and everybody's on the same page, but also so that these debates can happen now on what's best going forward. Again, competing interests in a way. I don't think they need to be competing, but they're perceived and understood by most of us that way in our daily lives. You have the interests of keeping things the same, keeping some open space, keeping Cache Valley looking the way it does, more fields than subdivisions. Unfortunately, the counter interest here is people grow up here, want to stay here, and that's where most of the population growth is going to come from. It's not migration from other parts of the state or even other states. It's people growing up and starting their own families, and that has an exponential factor. and they've got to live somewhere, right? They've also got to drive somewhere, work somewhere, shop somewhere. So this is complex, and you can't just have a discussion about housing without also including, or at least considering, factors like transportation and commercial avenues. Where are all these people going to work? Now, obviously, if you wanted to just keep everyone out, or if you wanted families to see their kids constantly leaving the valley for other areas, you could just stop attracting new businesses in for jobs. You could make sure the roads are just awful to be on every day. One thing the state might face that could completely flip these projections of population growth on their ends is our water situation. And, of course, water, we can only do so much about how much water is available. We can conserve. That's definitely going to help. But eventually, you're going to hit a tipping point of sorts, and that could change these projections as well. I think we might see this kind of thing over the next 10 years in areas like St. George. If water becomes more expensive, if water becomes less available, if cities are forced due to drought conditions and other type things to impose restrictions on having yards and things like that. Some cities are already considering that here in northern Utah. Well, then that could change who wants to live where. So there are a lot of factors here, a lot of plates spinning in the air. But again, for public policy purposes, it's best, and I think the legislature was smart to put this mandate on cities. It's best to start thinking about this, to start looking ahead, and to start getting a plan together. Well, again, many cities in Cache Valley have been on that for a few years now. The county has been as well. And just recently, in fact, just last week, there was a very interesting discussion that happened at a joint workshop. This was the regular Cache County Council meeting turned into a joint County Council and Planning Commission workshop where they talked about different types of zoning, where they talk, and keep in mind, again, this discussion isn't necessarily, it will be, it's going to head there, but this wasn't a situation where you had some proposals, then there was a vote, and that's how things are in Cache Valley now. This was a workshop. This was to get everybody up to speed, to get an understanding between county council members of the Planning Commission's options and where we could go going forward when it comes to housing, when it comes to agriculture, when it comes to open space, all of that. And also for the Planning Commission to get an idea of what the county council, the elected representative body, feels should be top priority. Road issues, different ways of getting around the valley, of course, are going to be a part of the county's planning long-term as well. So they have a lot to consider. And I want to just play some clips from this meeting for you. I'd recommend that everyone take the time, and it's a significant amount of time. This was nearly a 2-hour-long meeting. None of it super exciting. That's why I'm just bringing you clips today. For those that don't have the the patience to sit through a 2-hour meeting where they're discussing, RU2 and RU5 types of zoning, then these clips are for you. But if you have that type of patience and interest and time, take the 2 hours and listen to this, because it will really help you wrap your head around how complex this is, but also how important these types of discussions are going to be. So starting off here, here's just a clip from the introductory portion of this Cache County Council Planning Commission joint workshop, where they're talking about making some changes to zoning. What used to be known as a zone district here in Cache Valley is now just zoning, and there are different types of zoning under consideration for the county council, for the planning commission, for all of us, are different types. To give you some examples of what you're going to hear them talking about here, there's RU2 zoning, which is moderately dense. And think subdivisions that aren't in a downtown or a metropolitan area. They're out in the outskirts, kind of. So they're subdivisions. They're moderately dense, meaning the yards are maybe smaller, the houses are smaller, but there's still a lot of space in between houses, and it looks very much like when we think subdivision, what we think of. There's also something called an RU5. It stands for Rural 5. RU5 zoning, which is low density. So that's also a rural subdivision zone that would allow for larger yards and even some small-scale agricultural operations to happen within what is basically zoned as residential. by the county. That's an option. There's forest recreation zone. That's FR 40. There's commercial zoning, C. That's how you'll see that listed in the county documents. And then, of course, industrial and manufacturing, things like that. So the decision is, and also we do have, not a lot of this in Cache Valley yet, but it might change. We'd also have resort zoning, which is RR. So you'll hear these terms used in this discussion, but the question for the county council, for the planning commission, and for all the cities that are going to be working with the county going forward on things like this too is, where should all of this zoning be? Where's the best place for moderate density, high density, low density? How should that all be laid out, looking ahead again 5 to 10 years? Here's just a bit of the introductory discussion from the last county council meeting, which was also, again, a county council planning commission workshop trying to, answer some of these very questions. The first presenter you'll hear here, by the way, is a member of the Cache County Planning and Zoning Commission, Chris Sands.
Looked at 3 different options. One of those was selected, and we'll talk about that in a second here, about what was the best course forward, and we've implemented that with the Planning Commission's staff, and I'll show you those pieces. We also talked generally about the general plan update and timeline and process. I can tell you right now, we're still looking at a September, October, I'll say last quarter of this year, having the general plan completed. That means it will have come before the Planning Commission and then to the council to be adopted. So that's the timeline, is sometime in the last quarter we'll wrap that stuff up. We will still continue on the 3 other plans that are in play, which are our urban and rural area assessment, cost of service plan, and regional collaboration plan. Those will follow, but they're all happening at the same time, but they won't happen until first half of 2022. And moving forward, we'll just move forward. How about that? So as we looked at those things, this is a map showing at the time, 2019, the request for a rezone to the RU2 or RU5 zones that were approved or denied, and you can kind of see where those were scattered about in the county. Just kind of varies. The approach has been very case specific. So based on the context of the request, the Planning Commission and Council would make a decision. And so it varies considerably. I also just did an update of that. I didn't have time to put it into a map form, so I apologize for that, but there is a spreadsheet I put together that shows all those from 2011, from when the RU2 and RU5 zones were adopted, to present day, showing which zones were requested and if they were approved or denied, where they're at, what kind of acreage we're talking about, and how many lots would have resulted or did result from that. So as you move forward, you can see it's kind of 50-50 on what was happening. We hit about 2019, and there's a good chunk of denials that have occurred. And then in 2021, we see some new applications come in that have been approved. So most recently, Creekside Estates, which is just west of Smithfield, off 8th West, Riggs Subdivision, and then Mountain View, which is just outside of Mendon.
Sands said during this presentation that the pattern that you see is interesting, but not as important as the fact that the county council seems to have in their votes on whether to, and the planning commission as well, in their votes with the support of the council, have been approving or denying these requests for a rezone. That would be taking advantage of these RU2 and RU5 zoning, moderate density, low density subdivisions in the more rural areas. The county council has been careful, Sands said, and says it's very apparent in the pattern over the last 10 years. The county council has been very careful to keep the approvals small. So they're approving, moderate and low density subdivisions, but they're keeping approvals to small proposals only. And Sands said during the presentation that this actually gives the county a lot of options going forward as population increases. And so it gives you an idea as the listener here. This isn't happening at random. It can seem that way sometimes, but there is planning going on here. There is consideration going on here of the future, what things might look like going forward. We don't want to end up like Syracuse. I use that as an example every time, but it's the best example. So this type of planning, this type of throttling, if you will, a bit on development, keeping the low and moderate density developments small and contained, it leaves the door open for other options as we move forward and as the county continues to grow. So again, an interesting look at how this type of planning happens. You can watch the entire thing again at the Cache County Council's site, which is cachecounty.org/county council. It's about a 2-hour-long presentation. We've got some clips for you here. That was the past, looking backward on how the planning has gone so far when it comes to the Planning Commission and the County Council in Cache County at large. They also talked about what happens next. It's very interesting. We've got the audio for you, clips at least, for those who don't have the full 2 hours, which I understand, to watch the meeting on YouTube. Stay tuned.
Oh, little piggy, let me in or I'll blow this building down.
Nice try, Wolfie, but this here building's made from steel.
All right then, here goes. Gosh, that didn't work.
A building from Northern Steel Buildings will keep out the big bad wolf, and they don't break the piggy bank. Visit northernsteelbuildings.com to see their quality work or call 435-677-7300. Northern Steel Buildings, value from concept to construction.
As the summer's war against weeds and pests rages on, a new bug threat starts hopping around, destroying garden plants and flowers. Luckily, you are ready for them with Logan Extermination's Perimeter Grasshopper Control. It's like a minefield for the minute menace.
Good job, men. Another bug bites the dirt. Let's regroup before the next wave hits.
They do what they are trained to do. Strike terror into termites, bash the bed bugs, and cook the cockroaches. Remember the brave men and women at Logan Extermination. Call 752-8450.
Prices start at only $65.
Vehicle accidents are stressful enough. You don't need someone showing up at the scene trying to pressure you into letting them tow away your vehicle. Call your roadside assistance provider or insurance company for towing company suggestions, or consult with police on the scene. And always have the price and terms in writing before you let them hook it up. If you suspect fraud, call us at 1-800-TEL-NICB or visit www.nicb.org. A public service message from the National Insurance Crime Bureau.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Running through some highlights from a recent joint Cache County Council and Cache County Planning and Zoning Commission workshop. This was a part of the regular date of a Cache County Council meeting, but turned into a workshop between the two entities to discuss, as you heard in the clip before the break there, the past, looking at what has been approved and not by the from the requests coming in for development. Some obvious patterns, an obvious intentional decision by county planning to keep approval of moderate and low-density subdivisions small. In fact, there were years where there were more denials than approvals, and that might surprise a lot of people. When you see the changes happening around the valley, it's easy for us all, myself included at times, to think, wow, are we asking any questions here about the future, about what happens when Cache Valley is just a giant just a valley full of subdivisions? Will there be any agriculture still? Will there be any open space? This is just going to be houses and roads from end to end. It feels that way sometimes. But again, the clip before the break there and everything you'll pick up if you watch the entire video of this nearly 2-hour-long joint workshop from last week, you'll realize that, no, the county council, the planning commission, they have a lot of concern for this type of thing, not just because there's a state mandate to come up with a plan in the next 5 years for all this projected doubling of population throughout the state, but also because they understand, there are things that make Cache Valley, and without planning, without working with the cities on planning, without working with the state on planning, you can find yourself, as many parts of the Wasatch Front have already found themselves, looking around going, whoa, what do we do? And now what? And it gets very expensive to build new roads because subdivisions have gone in such a way that it wasn't planned, and Now somehow, taxpayers have to come up with a new 4-lane highway to connect this to that because of some bad planning. That's literally happening on parts of the Wasatch Front. We can avoid that and also protect the character and the, for lack of a better word, the look, the feel maybe of Cache Valley, while at the same time making space for people to live as our population continues to grow very rapidly. So before the break there, you heard some clips. Chris Sands, member of the Planning Commission, talking about the past, some of the patterns that were obvious in the approval process. And the most noteworthy pattern, again, is that there is this intent to keep the approval small, to not just sign off on a large, sure, do what you want development when it comes to housing in the rural areas, to keep them a bit limited and to buy some time, keep some options open as we come up with this master plan, which Sands said again, when this is all said and done, it's probably going to take until December before they'll have anything that they can actually put up and say, okay, we're going to vote on this, have public hearings, things like that. Also a part of the discussion last week at this joint workshop of the County Council and the Planning Commission was, well, exactly what I'm talking about. That, are we an agricultural valley anymore? Is our future just housing? Is it possible to mix the two and still absorb all these people that are going to want to live here? That was a big part of what this joint workshop spent its time on. Here's a county council member talking about exactly that.
The history that was provided, and it goes with the valley, a lot of it ties to ag, and that's awesome. But the days of the ag still exist, but when you've got land prices that you're trying to compete against with residential prices, when you've got neighboring uses, there's a lot of things that just aren't real feasible anymore. And then again, you take, even if it's an ag person that wants to retire, they're done, their kids don't want to take over. I feel it's very important that people have options and property rights. But at the same time, just the history and talking to people and Phil, and I think the RU too, I think it's awesome that we allow, whether they're an ag producer or not, if they've got a 10-acre parcel and one of the kids wants to move home or something else, that they have that option, that they could build a lot there. It's a little more stressful and a little harder to take when you get a developer that figures out these sweet spots or these soft spots and comes in and manipulates us. And I can't believe our last meeting, FR 40 zone, we get somebody coming in wanting to change the FR 40 to A10, and the comments made right there, we'll pick your spot, let's work with you. Well, we don't know where we want to put the house, and then you see these great big roads going in and everything else, and it's obvious their intent. So I feel we have a very, very important task to help the direction of our county from the organization as well as the cost effectiveness. But, it's not all cut and dried, and thank goodness that's why we have conditional use permits, zoning changes. But it's just nice if we could be in unison or, have the same vision. If we can see that vision when we encounter one of these exceptions or what have you, does that fit here? And I know that the entire time I've been involved with the planning and zoning, cost keeps coming up. We're losing money. We can't afford to push roads out that far or whatever else. Well, if you've already opened the stream and let somebody else build out there, how do you stop somebody else from their property rights or doing it? But at the same time, just try and be smart, I guess, as a group and make it happen.
That, again, is audio from this joint workshop of the Cache County Council and the Planning and Zoning Commission that really gets to the heart of the challenges going forward. With population growing, expected to double in the next 30 to 40 years, how do you keep Cache Valley Cache Valley? How do you give everyone a place to live, a place to work, a place to drive to work? All of that at the same time is going to be necessary, unavoidable, unless the projections end up being hugely wrong, which they could be, but it's doubtful. How do you do all of this? Well, that's what this meeting's all about, and as you heard there in that audio clip, no one has the answers right now. The goal is to come up with some kind of unified plan which, again, as you heard in the clip before the break, hopefully will be something that can be presented to the public and to the council to vote on by the end of this year. But these discussions are going on now. The public can be a part of them. Cache County Council meetings are open, and you can also watch the video of this entire 2-hour workshop with the Cache County Council and the Planning and Zoning Commission discussing the future of the valley when it comes to housing, roads, and more. That is on YouTube and also at the Cache County Council's website, cachecounty.org/county council. And we'll be back with more of For the People right after these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:35. The news is brought to you by U&I Furniture. The preliminary hearing for a 50-year-old Spring Creek Middle School teacher charged with physically assaulting 5 students has been postponed. Scott Meeker was arrested in April after one of the students was taken to the hospital for medical treatment. Meeker was in First District Court this morning. He was previously charged with 1 count of child abuse, a second-degree felony, and 4 Class B misdemeanors of assault. Judge Angela Fonsbeck met briefly with attorneys in chambers before the hearing began. Later, Cache County Deputy Attorney Dane Murray said his witness had been unable to appear in court. He asked for the preliminary hearing to be continued so the witness would be able to attend. Meeker and defense attorney Brandon Baxter said they were okay with the hearing being postponed. Judge Angela Fonsbeck rescheduled the hearing for October 4th, when she will determine whether prosecutors have sufficient evidence to bind Meeker over for trial. According to an arrest report, Cache County Sheriff's deputies were contacted by one of the alleged victims' parents April 14th. Their son had been taken to the hospital after allegedly being punched in the head twice by Meeker. After receiving the complaint, a detective met with school officials and viewed a video of the reported incident taking place. The detective claimed the video showed the alleged victim walking down the school's hall. The boy is seen jumping up and hitting the top of the lockers, known as dunking. Meeker was seen coming out of his classroom and grabbing the boy by the collar of his shirt. He then pushed the juvenile across the hall and slammed him into a wall, causing him to hit his head. Meeker appeared to say something to the boy and then let him go. As the video continued, it showed Meeker watching a group of onlookers and chasing them down. He pushed several kids out of the way and grabbed 2 other male juveniles by the back of the neck and pushed them towards another boy. The detective reported that Meeker was then seen throwing 2 closed punches, striking the 4th juvenile in the head. The boy sustained multiple bruises, requiring medical treatment at the hospital. A 5th boy was also pushed during the altercation. Authorities are searching for an 8-foot-long boa constrictor that was accidentally freed from its container last week. KSL-TV reported today that animal control officers were called to a home in Tooele on Friday. Contractors who were working on the house accidentally knocked over the snake's container, releasing it. Tooele Police Lieutenant Jeremy Hansen said animal control searched the home for over 90 minutes but could not find the reptile. Hansen says the snake's owners believe it may still be on his property. Anyone who may know about the snake's whereabouts was being asked to contact the Tooele Police Department. And the Navajo Nation on Monday reported 7 new COVID-19 cases, but no additional deaths. Tribal health officials say there were 4 cases and 1 death reported Sunday, after having 5 new cases and 2 deaths reported Saturday. The total number of deaths on the vast reservation that covers parts of Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah stands at 1,357 since the pandemic began more than a year ago. KVNU News Time is 5:39.
People love shopping at U&I Furniture. They know they're going to get a great price on a quality piece of furniture. And one section of the store is Chair Heaven, where U&I has a big selection of rocker recliners, power recliners, big chairs, chairs for the petite, swivel chairs, accent chairs, lift chairs, all kinds of chairs. U&I works hard to have the inventory you're looking for. In fact, they order new furniture on almost a daily basis to keep stocked up. So if you need a sofa love, sectional, a new dining room set, stop in and see why there really is always a better buy at U&I Furniture in downtown Logan at 28 West 1st North.
KVNU weather tonight, mostly clear skies, overnight low in the upper 50s, sunny, hot around 100 degrees tomorrow, sunny upper 90s on Thursday. It spins a 95, it's 93 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Northern Steel Buildings. Contact their Cache Valley team to protect what's yours at northernsteelbuilding.com. Value from concept to construction. Call 435-677-7300. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Bicycle. Hey, Cache Valley. Our community is recognized as one of the best places in the West to ride a bicycle. And the Cache Grand Fondo is celebrating our 10th annual bike ride. Ranked a top 10 Grand Fondo event in North America with 35, 50, 75, and 100-mile routes means this is a ride for all abilities. Register and come visit us on Saturday, July 10th. For more information, visit CacheGrandFondo.com or Google Cache Grand Fondo.
Hey, it's Al Lewis. It's finally summertime, but if you struggle with CPAP, you might not be getting the sleep you need to get outside and enjoy your favorite summer activities. Fortunately, there's a treatment that will give you the sleep you dream of called Inspire. It works inside your body with just the click of a remote. Learn more at InspireSleep.com. Inspire Sleep Apnea Innovation. No mask, no hose, just sleep. Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you. And review important safety information at InspireSleep.com.
This is Sweetwater Window Cleaning. Summer is here, and so are all the activities. Why not have us take care of the window cleaning for you? I'm sure you've got plenty on your to-do list already. And let's face it, when you climb that dangerous ladder to clean your own windows, they seldom come out as good as you'd like. Let us give you the crystal clean professional results you want. Mention this ad, and we'll remove hard water for free.
Sweetwater Window Cleaning, 3636543, 3636543.
These are the sounds of a dinner. But not just any dinner. A dinner that almost didn't happen. Because without food, it can't. A dinner now served, thanks to people like you. Due to COVID-19, 17 million more Americans may face hunger. Feeding America is helping our neighbors in need. And if you're able, you can too. Donations to the COVID-19 Relief Fund are being accepted at feedingamerica.org/coronavirus. Your help is needed now more than ever, and every dollar makes a difference. That's feedingamerica.org/coronavirus. On behalf of Feeding America and families nationwide, thank you. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Feeding America, 200 Food Bank strong.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. While we're on the topic of growth and change, get used to this, folks. I know that for many of us, it'd be so great to say Cache Valley is just going to just stay Cache Valley the way we all remember it as a kid. I'd love for the spaces where I used to ride my little BMX bike to still be open fields. They're not. They're all subdivisions now. I would love for the changes that are coming to the valley to you don't want to stop this. I don't want to tell people, oh, sorry, we're out of space. You got to move. When you grow up, you can't stay here in the valley. You've got to move somewhere else. Nobody wants to do that. You don't want to see your family members have to go. It's a great place to live. But it does, as population grows exponentially. And so as more and more people decide to locate here, to stay here, we're going to have to adapt. And that's the simple fact of the matter. Again, you can call into question how much the population is going to grow. The projections, again, are double the population of right now in the next 30, 40 years. A lot of things can happen in that time. I mentioned water at the start of the hour. I'm not kidding about this. This has happened in other parts of the country before where, an area was just a hot spot. Everyone wanted to stay there, and then it just got so crowded. The traffic was so nasty, and water was an issue. That's going to be a continued issue here in Utah. So you might see, if certain restrictions become necessary, like, for example, in the southern part of the state, I think in the coming years you're going to see, in the St. George area, for example, you're going to see cities having to say, look, lawns just can't be a thing anymore. We can't afford to do this. There's increasing pressure on cities who do own golf courses to stop that in some parts of the state even. So, these are just examples of things that might change, but change is coming. So, but speaking of that change, we talk about downtown. Whenever we talk about growth, we talk about, the areas that are undeveloped right now. But there's also a factor when it comes to downtowns of cities, and this pulls in transportation. This pulls in planning as well. And the whole idea behind this is, you want to give people an area and business owners an area where, as population grows, you can go do stuff and spend money. That's good for the economy. It gives people jobs. It's good for the cities. They can generate revenue through these methods to do the business of the city and provide the services we expect them to provide. So, rising tides, et cetera. And Logan has been on that for many years now, trying to revitalize downtown, turn it into something far different than what it used to be, but also something that is necessary for downtown in 2021. A lot of that has already happened. There's a lot still coming. We're going to see the Emporium building come down. We're going to see the construction of a plaza, a central meeting area, something that will attract people to downtown. And the overall goal, as Mayor Daines has told us, as the city council members have told us, the goal with all this, and it's planned, is to give people, to make downtown a destination, not a place people stop on their way to do something else on the weekends, but a place where people come on the weekends, and that's where they're going to be. They're going to eat downtown. They're going to enjoy some entertainment downtown. They're going to walk downtown, maybe stumble in to a few businesses and spend some money. That's the goal, and that's what residents of cities expect from their downtowns now. So that's happening around all of this planning and changing that's happening in every city around Logan and throughout Cache County. So I've really been focused on this. Today, the county council, either still is or has just met in a closed session. They do this rarely. The Logan City Council rarely uses closed session. When they do, it's either to discuss, sometimes there's a human resource issue maybe. Sometimes they'll do it to discuss a sale or a purchase of property. Anytime when there's going to be discussion of private information, then they'll go into a closed session. And then the information discussed will be followed in a public session. So before any decision is made, that part goes public. But sometimes they have to discuss things that include private information, that include price tags and things like that that are being thrown about before any money is actually spent. And they go into these closed sessions. That happened today at 3 p.m. And the rumor mill has it the request might be some pretty welcome news to some downtown business owners. If you were following along, last time Mayor Daines was in with us, we talked about this, but there was a plan the city had to relocate Logan City's fire department. It's old, it's tiny, it doesn't fit the needs of Logan City or the fire department crew any longer. And if you've ever been inside, you'll see why. This is something that has to change. And the plan was to take it from that existing location on the north side of that downtown block there. Fire station faces Second North, just up from the Burger King there. And they were going to move it to the opposing corner, which is currently an empty parking lot. Well, it's rarely empty, and that was kind of the issue. They were going to relocate it there. Then the parking spaces that would be lost by putting the fire department there then would be replaced by turning the existing spot of the fire department's building. That would be raised and parking would be put there. So overall, no loss of parking, but there would be a transition period in which there would be significant loss of parking while construction happened and tear down happened and things like that. Local businesses around that Federal Avenue area and along First East and even Second North complained about this and said they can't afford to lose that parking. So they showed up en masse and told the city, we oppose this plan. The city said, all right, we're putting a pause on this plan to relocate to that southeastern corner of the parking area there, the new fire department. And so, again, this is all rumor mill. City officials aren't saying a word outright on this closed meeting that, again, is either still happening now or did happen, and we just haven't heard the results yet at 3 p.m. today. It started at 3 p.m. today. County council members themselves didn't know. Charlie Schill of CashValleyDaily.com reached out, and they didn't know themselves for sure what they were going to be talking about in advance of the meeting, what property. What we did know is that it was a discussion about a potential property acquisition. No other details could be confirmed. Amy Anderson of the City Council said the purpose of the closed meeting has not been made public, and the council has not been fully informed. All we've been told, she said, we've been informed that this requested closed meeting is to consider the administration's request to discuss a potential property acquisition. And again, the rumor has it, this is what's going around, basically, that this might relate to that plan, need to relocate the fire department. It needs to stay in downtown, but how? If swapping it to that other corner of the same block is unacceptable to local businesses, what are the other options? Mayor Daines and I speculated when she was here for last month's Speak to the Mayor segment, and there are other options, but would they be cheaper? Who knows? And so they were going to start asking questions. So the city council members also requested during that public hearing that happened around this relocation that alternate locations be considered. So everyone's guess is that that's what this discussion was about today. We'll know soon, and you can find out. Charlie Schill of CashValleyDaily.com is all over this one. You can find out by keeping an eye on CashValleyDaily.com and also the CashValleyDaily.com social media channels. As soon as we know, we'll have it on the air here in Cache Valley as well. But it might be some, like I say, welcome news for downtown businesses that were in opposition, that were concerned about this original plan to relocate the fire department's building to the southeast corner of the parking lot there on Federal Avenue. Odds are, I would say, this discussion is regarding an alternate location, a potential purchase of property that could give them a second choice for where to put the fire department. It needs to be in downtown. That's one thing we do know. It needs to move. That's the other thing we do know. Where? Well, like I say, stay tuned. Full story on this with everything we do know at this point, courtesy of Charlie Schill at CashValleyDaily.com. Closed session may be good news for Federal Avenue business owners. The title of the story there. I've also linked to that on our Facebook page, and we'll be back with more of For the People right after this.
Planning your funeral shouldn't be the last thing you do. Pre-planning is actually quite common. Allen Mortuaries recommends you plan it all in advance. That way, you have time to think and arrange things the way you want them. Then, when the time comes, your loved ones can focus on what's important. Family. Allen Mortuaries.
This is Jason Allen with Allen Mortuaries, serving Cache Valley for over 80 years. Then, now, always.
Utah is in extreme drought. Reservoirs are low and wildfire risk is dangerously high. Do your part to save water. Reduce outdoor watering and prioritize watering to focus on trees and shrubs. Check with your local provider for possible restrictions and visit slowtheflow.org.
Did you get a landscape plan and now wonder what's next? You need Canyon Landscaping. They can build any plan into a signature landscape. Since 1999, their team has viewed educating clients as a crucial part of every project. This ensures customers get the best finished landscape for their specific site. No two sites are the same, so be sure to come to the experts with expertise and knowledge of delivering on any landscape plan. Call 752-3838 or go to canyonlandscaping.com. Canyon Landscaping. Look for the leaf.
Utah Festival Opera and Musical Theater takes the stage July 7th through the 31st. Fantastics, the longest-running Broadway musical in history. Souvenir, the hilarious tale of a wealthy socialite who loves to sing but cannot carry a tune. 33 Variations is all about Beethoven. I Do, a 60-year musical love story. Don't miss the inspiring Mozart Requiem. Yearning to emerge from last year's cocoon? Utah Festival is just the ticket. Buy yours at utahfestival.org.
Hi,
Hi, this is Vicki Godfrey with Cache Valley Bank. We love supporting local business and are proud to support the new Center Street Market in downtown Logan every Wednesday during the summer. Starting Wednesday, May 12th, the market opens at 8 a.m. and all of the merchants will be local businesses from right here in Cache Valley. Cache Valley Bank invites everyone to the Center Street Market in downtown Logan. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
Meet me downtown. Meet me in downtown Logan.
Wednesday edition of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show.
We have the fight over CRT continuing now with a major teachers union saying they want CRT, plus more results from the New York City mayor's election. What does this mean for defund the police? And Clay, what have you got?
Well, we're going to continue to point out idiocy and be the most reasonable humans on the planet. It'll be the Wednesday edition of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show. Don't miss it.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
I was in the hospital with my son for 18 months.
When he got injured, I wasn't prepared, but I knew I had to be strong.
When I was told about John's injury, I was in complete shock. I just remember rushing into his room and giving him a big hug and letting him know I was there.
These veterans and families are just a few of the heroes we serve at Homes for Our Troops. For thousands of severely injured veterans, everyday life is filled with barriers.
It was really the little things throughout the house. Counters that you can't roll up to. I had to drag my wheelchair down steps.
I want to help, but he is so determined.
At Homes for Our Troops, we build specially adapted custom homes with features like wheelchair access, roll-in showers, and automatic door openers that allow them to function independently and focus on their recovery and family.
This house is freedom. It's hope. It's a new beginning.
This house has given me my family back.
To learn more, visit hfotusa.org.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. That is about our time for today. We've talked about a lot of positive things. The good news from the governor, again, that we're at least near, using some old data, admittedly, 2-year-old population data. The governor's office announcing today that a few days later than planned, and again, using old data, so we might be a bit under still, we're at least close to that 70% of the state's 18 and older population having been vaccinated at this point. That's a good thing, definitely, and we'll see as those numbers continue to grow. The governor was pretty excited to announce that today. We're pretty excited to hear it. This is where state epidemiologist Dr. Angela Dunn said we needed to be to officially call the pandemic controlled. There is still some concern here in Utah. This Delta variant seems to be a pretty aggressive spreader. And although the vaccines work, vaccines don't stop you from getting this. They'll just keep you out of the hospital and the morgue. Still a lot of spread of that variant here in Utah. So the governor warned that, everybody should not quite let their guard down now, but definitely good news. In the bad news category, link to this on our Facebook page. We'll talk about it in more detail tomorrow, as well as the history of Casper ice cream in Richmond. That's also on tomorrow's show. But check out this story at CacheValleyDaily.com. We talked about it a bit last week, but in detail and photographic evidence, the effects of receding water at the Great Salt Lake. I've mentioned it before, but concerns about the dust, some of it comprised of toxic metals that enters the air when that lake bed's exposed. News the lake was going to hit a historic low this year due to our own water usage, but also the drought itself. And some photos of just how bad it is along the lake there. The effect it's having on the brine shrimp business, basically putting it on pause for the entire year here. And also some photos of them having to crane sailboats out of the water there because, there's just a lack of water. Also some historic photos showing what things used to look like and haven't for a long time when it comes to Great Salt Lake. It's eye-opening. Check it out. The full story at CacheValleyDaily.com. Air and environmental quality at risk as Great Salt Lake nears lows. Some effects on wildlife, too, that are very unfortunate. Hoping this is temporary, but it's going to take us keeping it so, doing everything we can to conserve, the story says, and how you can do that, also included in the story via CashValleyDaily.com. I've linked to it on our Facebook page. Again, that's our time for today. Dave Ramsey is next here on KVNU Logan.